Practical strategies to support EAL pupils with reading. Pupils with EAL will have different experiences of reading in English. The way they learn to read in English will be a combination of their prior knowledge, their individual learning styles, and their responses to the current learning situation. EAL reading assessments aim to test pupils' abilities to decode letters, words, sentences, and whole text, as well as to understand them. Reading development for learners of EAL includes improving both decoding and comprehension skills. This module looks at different practical strategies to support EAL learners in the classroom to build and extend their reading skills. As for some learners, the learning of reading would start with the alphabet or with phonics. Here are examples of letter and phonics sound mats. They can be used as a reference tool for when pupils are reading and they're writing, and can be a useful guide for families to help with revision. Similar resources can be used for identifying regular phonics patterns and any common exceptions, developing independent decoding skills, or assessing EAL pupils. Providing visual support for reading, example flashcards, word mats, and reading prompts develops pupils' comprehension. Similar resources can be used for teaching vocabulary, books, texts before reading, practicing active reading strategies such as prediction, scanning for key info, using prior knowledge, motivating learners to make personal bilingual dictionaries of subject-specific key vocabulary for each subject. Illustrations, photographs, video concept maps, graphs, and charts, and many other visual stimuli can be used to great effect in the classroom. Similar resources can be used for developing reading comprehension, motivating pupils to use their own words to explain the context, memorizing key vocabulary. And here we have examples of personalized poem and a piece of personalized text that there are supported with illustrations. Keywords lists, like we've got examples here for rocks and soil, or for Macbeth, and for geography content. They are designed to help English language learners at any level focus on the most important words to learn in the area of study. Similar resources can be used for reading out key vocabulary and practicing pronunciation, teaching vocabulary in books, text before reading, translating in the classroom or as lesson preparation homework, prompts for using vocabulary in a typical sentence context, not just as single words. Prefixes and suffixes, they may be only a few letters long, but teaching pupils this can enable them to work out the meaning of thousands of new words, therefore improving the reading ability, vocabulary knowledge, and oral language. Students can understand unfamiliar words better, they can identify language patterns, or they can develop the use of academic language as well. Practicing active reading strategies such as prediction, scanning for key information using prior knowledge is key to develop pupils' text comprehension. Talk before reading can be used for introducing the context, addressing misconceptions, modeling the pronunciation of key vocabulary, introducing unfamiliar words, or discussing cultural references. The storyboard technique strategy is a strategy that helps students keep track of a narrative's main ideas and supporting details by having them illustrate the story's important scenes. Storyboards can be also used for asking learners to review what they have read and retell in their own words, assessing pupils' understanding of the text, or identifying key facts. And here we have some examples of storyboards. DATS, which means directed activities related to texts. This is a series of activities that could be used for prior teaching activities, or to check a student comprehension, or for homework, to work on the text independently at home. So here are some examples of that. Labeling, which would be an introduction to key vocabulary or assessment of comprehension. True or false activities, they can be used for any type of text, fiction or non-fiction, original or simplified. And again, the aim of this activity is to check the comprehension of the text. Scanning a text will help pupils get the gist of what it is about. By asking pupils to pick out keywords, teachers can make sure pupils know what the main themes and points are. Highlighting unfamiliar words to discuss or translate could be a starting activity before reading. Here we have more examples of that. Matching, lots of different ideas here. Those activities can be easily adapted. So that could be matching of pictures to words, words to words, phrases to words. So we've got the development of vocabulary and of texts and reading at the same time. Sequencing, again, this activity could be easily adapted and presented as words, sentences, or short paragraphs, or sorting activities where students have to match some words to the categories. More examples here. We have a sample of a text here with a mistake, with a conscious mistake that students would have to identify by having familiarized themselves with the text, finding the correct order of subheadings. That's another idea for a DART activity, or a multiple choice task that allows the learner time to read the same text at several times with a different focus. And again, this is a great assessment tool. Here we have an example of another DART activity, which is a gap filling activity. We have an example of the text. It's all about volcanoes here. And then it's followed up by an activity where students would have to read the text again, and they would have to identify those missing words. And they are presented here in the form of a table. And we have another similar example here, which is based on a GCSE exam style question for English. Text marking is a technique that teachers use to help children recognize different features in a text. This can be done by highlighting, underlining, marking, or circling using a different colored pen. Text marking is a useful activity for pupils to do in class, as it ensures they understand the text fully, because they are identifying the key aspects to it, rather than just reading a piece of text and discussing it. And we have some examples presented here as well. Focusing on a small chunk of text in detail, this is an example of a longer text which has been adapted for students who are the beginners at the very early stage of learning of English. And they have to think of single sentences. This is an excellent idea to ensure everyone in the classroom understands a sentence or passage. Teachers can break down the hard parts and explain the definition of different words to pupils. This is also a great opportunity to review certain grammar rules. Scaffolding is breaking up the learning into chunks, then providing a tool or structure to use with each chunk. Pupils get additional guidance while reading. Example, checking pupils' comprehension by using the stop, check, comment technique. And we have an example here on the screen, asking learners to explain a word or phrase they have read, or suggesting answers or text explanations. Text presentation is key to motivate pupils to take active part in reading activities. Here we have two texts that were simplified for students. The first one at the top is a Christmas Carol paragraph that was created into smaller paragraphs with subheadings. So it's a good preparation for scanning activity or skimming. For students, it will be much easier for them to know which paragraph to go to if they are looking for some specific piece of information. And below, we have a text taken from, it's an exam style question, original text used for GCSE again, and it was simplified by choosing the most important sentences. First language. Some EAL pupils can fluently read in their first language, and some others may not be able to do that. They may be learning, they may not have a chance to read in their first language. So it is important to understand at what level of proficiency in the first language or another language, doesn't have to be the first language, the student is performing. But what is good to know, some important information about the other language the student is using. So if we know that, for example, in Italian, we may have many different dialects, or some letters are actually omitted from the alphabet, or if we know that Arabic is written from right to left, it may be easier to understand why that specific student is making a specific mistake, or why they are thinking in a specific way, or why they are finding difficulties in pronouncing a sound. Reading in first language is always a good idea. Developing that literacy skills is important for speakers of other languages, even in their first language. By reading in their language, they can also develop the understanding of the curricular content. Keeping families informed of topics being covered in lessons, motivating them to discuss and research at home in the first language or in English will support pupil development. Recommending books as well as films and TV programs will build up the learner's literacy, and cultural frame of reference will support student development. And here are examples of bilingual curricular books. And we've got two links here, one to children's books online And another one to International Children's Digital Library, which I would like to recommend. They have many books in different languages. Translations. Some EAL pupils will rely on translations. Not everyone can read in their first language or another language they are using. But if you are aware of a student who is using translations or who is keen to translate in lessons, it is worth organizing it for them as well. So the presentation of the text could be with a use of the numbered system, as in here. So it would be much easier for a child to identify which sentence is translated. Or for students who are using translations during lessons, that could be very useful to leave some space or a box where they can actually take notes and they can write down the translations. In the era of technology, it is important to use electronic readers as well, to promote them, because they can support with homework, they can help with pronunciation development, they can translate. We've got an example here on the screen of the immersive reader application, which can actually translate text as well. Independent learning will be supported thanks to those readers, and I think it's a really great way of communicating with families as well, and offering them electronic readers apps so they can support their children at home as well. We have reached the end of the presentation, and here are some reflection points. Thank you.